Parshas Beshalach. Many years ago, in my yeshiva days, I had someone who was able to provide me with large numbers of Victor Miller tapes from the whole year. In other words, not just on a weekly basis, but a whole bunch. And I started listening to them, and it was middle of the summertime when I was listening and I was reading about Bereshis and vice versa. All different types of topics which were not relevant to the time that I was reading them. And as I listened to them, I said, he's so interesting, I want to listen to it anyway. And I did, and I paid attention. And I realized something now, many years later, that all of these tapes and all of the topics and the entire year, the whole Jewish year and everything that we do, all is conglomerated into one. It's all coming from one source. So when I'm going to talk to you about Parshas Beshalach, and I'm going to discuss with you Al Nisim from Hanukkah, it's not as disparate or as jarring as you might have suspected or expected. The pasuk says in Parshas Beshalach, Hashem Yilochem lochem v'atem tachrishon. Rashi says on the spot, Hashem Yilochem lochem bishvilchem. Hashem will battle for you. What is Rashi telling us? It says a gewaltige Wort that I saw from our Beryl Weisboard on our Hanukkah sefer that they put out from Ner Yisrael, on this pasuk, which he entitles appropriately enough, Hashem Yilochem lochem. And he raises an interesting problem. He says in the nusach of Al HaNisim, we say to Hashem, we praise Hashem, we say, Mosata Gibram B'yad Chaloshim, V'rabim B'yad Ma'atim, U'tmeim B'yad Tahoirim, Rishoim B'yad Sadikim, V'zeidim B'yad Oiskei Sorasecha. So if we're praising Hashem for this miraculous victory, and we're talking now, of course, about the Milchama, so he says the first two are appropriate. Giborim and Rabim, B'yad Chaloshim and Mi'atim. So that's a nes. That's a L'mayla min hateva nes. It's a supernatural nes. But the last three, he says, what is the nes involved with that? Tamei b'at Tahorim, Rishoim b'at Sadikim, Ezein b'at Oiskei Sorasecha. That's not a nes. That's, we would hope, would be the proper result of our efforts in doing Torah mitzvahs, that Hashem will give us hatzlach in what we do. He brings on a Ramban, beginning of Parshas Vayishlach, that Yaakov prepared himself for three things, as we know: Doiroin, Tefillah, and Milchama. So the question is, what was Yaakov preparing? Was he actually having war exercises? Was he doing work to become a warrior? Or, more interestingly, which is what he says, the Ramban, that he was preparing to fight a battle in which he could escape, and that is the Jewish way. Our derech milchama of Klal Yisrael is Hashem Yilochem lochem, Hashem ish milchama. Klal Yisrael are not warriors. Hashem is the one who's in charge. And if we have to use battle as a means of saving ourselves, that's the only reason we do it. We use it as a means of saving ourselves to run away. But it's Hashem who's doing the milchama. Hashem who's doing the battle for us. What are we saying in Al HaNisim? Rav Beryl posits. Al HaNisim, Val HaPorkon, Val HaGvuros, Val HaTshuos, Val HaMilchamos. We should have said Milchamos first, because the Al HaNisim is all about the Milchama. Why is the Milchama the last? He says, what are we thanking Hashem for? This is not a hoda'ah or a praise of Hashem on L'mayla min hateva nisim. This is a tremendous yesod, he says here. We're thanking Hashem for every single thing, porkon, gevuros, teshuos, that happened to us on a daily basis. We thank Hashem for each and every aspect of our whole lives. Whatever haslacha we have, all of that comes from Hashem. As the Ramban writes, a person does not have a chelek in Torah's Moshe until he believes that all of our activities, everything that we do, our entire lives, is a nes. There's no such thing as teva, or that's the way it's supposed to be in the way of the world, whether it's as a nation or as a yachid. In Shemon Esrei we say, "Anachnu maidim lach al nisecha v'nflasecha shebachol eis." We thank Hashem for all of our nisim, for every moment. We are thanking and we are understanding, and once we understand, then we can praise properly that everything that we do, all of the actions that we take, all of our nisim, and they require us to thank Hashem. In Al HaNisim, Chazal emphasized that, and they said that Hatzala was derech milchama, But the fact of the matter is, the Nitzachon of the Milchama was not because of our efforts, our battle, the Maccabim, the mighty Maccabim, as all the songs go. But it's only because of Hashem Ish Milchama. It was not our efforts, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu's being an Ish Milchama. Even if they put on battle armaments, even if they were working with swords and with bows and arrows, this is not because of what their actions were, but rather because of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's activities. Now we understand that even though we had a Nitzachon, and the Nitzachon was through Nisim and Neflos, but it only was because of Tmeim B'at Toharim, Rishon B'at Tzadikim, V'zeidim B'at Oisecha. We understand that the Milchama is Hashem Ish Milchama. Hashem Yilochem Lachem B'atem Tachrishon. Rashi says, Bishvilchem, Hashem will do it on your behalf. That's what Rashi is saying. Hashem is doing it. Understand that Hashem is doing it. Here in Beshalach, it's obvious that Hashem is doing it. Kriyas Yamsuf was no human activity. Running through the Yam was no human activity. Drowning the midstream was no human activity. But we learn from that. And in fact, the Oznayim LaTorah says, which was the greater of the two Nisim? The splitting of the sea and Klal Yisrael going through it with water standing up, or Moshe says, go back down, and the waters came back down and drowned the Mitzrayim. It's Mitzrayim. Bnei Yisrael realized, and that's what this pasuk is telling us as well, that the teva of gravity, the teva of water drowning people that are in the water, that's exactly the same HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Nisim and Neflos as the Ma'alim and HaTeva. That's what they understood, that each and every moment of our lives is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's doing in actions. And that's what it says, Hashem Elochem Lachem B'Shvilchem, Hashem doing everything for us. Hatem Tachrishon. We do have to do our efforts, and he says that clearly. Yes, we have to do our Hishtadlus. We understand that. But because we do our Hishtadlus, let us not think for 1 second that it is our activities. It's what we're doing. It is rather, is because we understand that all of the Hatzlacha and everything that we are able to accomplish in this life is only because of Hashem is wanting us to have it. And there are means by which we accomplish that, and we accomplish that only because Hashem wants us to. Good Shabbos.